Well, I'm here with Dr. Shivani Gupta from ShivaniGupta.com. We're talking about the superspice protocol to heal inflammation. And Shivani's always one of my favorite people to talk to. We've had several conversations in the past. And, Shivani is an expert when it comes to Ayurveda, but also inflammation in general. And Dr. Shivani, you hold a PhD in turmeric and a master's in Ayurveda. So, what drew you to this path and what made inflammation such a central part of your mission?
Well, for me, growing up, I saw a lot of health devastation occur in front of me. I think so many of us look at our families and realize, you know what? I don't want that health. That's the health I don't want to have in this lifetime. And so growing up, I would land in India to see my grandparents, and inevitably it would be grandma needs a quadruple bypass. Or one time I landed and my grandfather's leg had been amputated because he was an advanced diabetic, he had neuropathy, and all sorts of things happened. So to me, I always thought, what are we doing wrong here? What is the root of this problem? How come my entire grandparent generation and my entire parent generation is struggling with diabetes? And what are we going to do to resolve this? And so that's when I realized inflammation is a root cause issue. We are certainly not winning at it with our current lifestyle. And I was in India and I thought, we're in the land of yoga and Ayurveda. Maybe there's something here. And when I started studying it, I realized Ayurveda is an entire system of health and healing from India that's 5,000 years old, that's built around the idea that we have prevention in our hands. We can take the steps to prevent anything. And so that's why I fell in love with Ayurveda. And I went and studied it in depth. And when I was sitting there in herbology class and I learned about turmeric and the super spices, I thought these are the most incredible superfoods. How come in the West, I'm from Houston, Texas, how come we're not reaching into this spice kit and healing all these issues? And I'm Indian. And in India, we're not even using these spices in the right form at the right potency to drive those kinds of results. And so that's where I thought turmeric was really fascinating because how can one spice do what we claim it does? And so I spent years in that research, in that science, digging in. And that's when I became such an evangelist of turmeric. And I thought, okay, I think I found the thing that my family needed that we just didn't realize could have been a support all along.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been talking about, and this is great because you've pronounced it turmeric and turmeric.
Yes.
And, I've been talking about this online for, 20 plus years now, the power of this great herb, turmeric or turmeric. And I've gotten so many people online when I call it turmeric,
Yeah,
they get on me about that, right? But, you're a PhD in it and there are multiple ways you can pronounce it.
there are. I always said turmeric, and
Right.
I realized after 10 years no one was understanding me. So I said, I'm just going to say it the way y'all say it so you get what I'm saying. And if you want me to say it as turmeric, I'm fine with that too. I
Technically, the
think,
right way is turmeric.
yeah,
But if you say it turmeric, it's okay.
exactly. Exactly.
We like to pronounce that U. We like to emphasize that U in English, right? Or at least Americans do. So
For sure.
yeah. All right, let's talk about Ayurveda a little bit. You talked about how, you studied this and how it gave you kind of a good concept of how the body works. In Ayurveda, there's something called doshas. Can you break those down and talk about how they play into things like our gut health, our inflammatory levels, our daily circadian rhythm?
Absolutely. So in Ayurveda, we have a lot of pillars of health that we teach about. One key piece that we teach is the doshas. And I have a book coming out called The Inflammation Code with Hay House. And in that book, I really dive much deeper into these dosha constitutions so we can all understand that we are made of nature. We're driven by elemental forces. And so we are these elemental beings. And if we understand our energy types, we can really customize our preventive lifestyle around our type. And so the three types are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. You can pronounce them Vata, Pitta, and Kapha to make them easier. And so a Vata person is made up of air and ether. This is your person who's thin and wiry. This is someone whose brain goes 100 miles a minute. This is someone who doesn't have to eat all day. They get to dinner and say, oh, I forgot to eat today. I have no idea what that feels like. But this is someone who just survives on coffee and juice and tea and stuff like that all day long. And so a Vata person is a template for certain struggles. They can tend to be dry, that trait of wind and air. They can tend to have dry hair, brittle nails, dry skin, insomnia. So that sleep, that mind that's overactive leads to insomnia or gut issues or constipation as well. And so we address the Vata person with certain habits and rituals that support them. It's a customization of preventive lifestyle to a body type. Then we have Pitta. Pitta person is fire. That's their main trait with some water. So a Pitta person is more medium bodied, tends to have reddish skin, reddish hair, maybe early graying in the hair, tends to be all fire. So sharp mind, sharp intellect. They're really passionate. When they're out of balance, they get angry, frustrated. They're kind of like a volcano. They burn out, explode, erupt. And so if you're a bit that person and you get hangry all the time and you're running inflamed with acne and hives and skin issues coming out of you, that just means we need to cool down your system like a nuclear reactor and really support you in a different way for that inflammation. And so we're talking about coconut water, cooling foods, summer foods, like really calm the system down from that overactive fire. And then finally, we have Guffa. Guffa is an entire body type where the person's going to be bigger boned, stronger, they can lift heavier. This is someone with rounder features, maybe round face, round eyes, curly, oilier hair, oilier skin. And a Guffa person tends to be one thing at a time. So this is that grandma energy, Mother Earth energy, or maybe a man in your life who's just so grounded. And so this person, because they're earth and water energy, can tend to be maybe slower metabolism. Maybe they don't get through the day and get through everything that they want to. And I always say that when Guffa sits down at the end of the day, it's like Mother Earth sat down and she's not going to get up. And so in this day and age where we talk about productivity and burn the candle at both ends and do work all day and work all night on your ideas, that doesn't suit or support a Guffa person. And so we need to support Guffa in moving their energy in the morning, moving their metabolism, eating warm, easy to digest foods for that metabolism and gut that maybe needs a little more support. And then they can help manage their inflammation and everything better. So Ayurveda is really showing us that we can build a circadian clock into our day, a circadian rhythm, customized to our dosha, with self-care habits that are detoxing while building a beautiful digestive fire and gut health. And it's the combination of that that gives us vibrant health. And a lot of why we're struggling in modern day times is because we lack that rhythm customized to our elements in our body.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And how do you find out which of those body types you are? Like I would say I'm probably somewhere between. I don't think I feel like I fit like exactly one, but probably between the Vata and the Pitta, right?
Yeah.
So the kind of the cool and the fire, somewhere in there. Is that possible to kind of have a little bit of like an overlap?
You can absolutely have a primary dosha and a secondary, but
Yeah.
that's most of us. And then some people are balanced in all three. So it's always interesting to see where they're stronger in one and less in the other. I have a dosha quiz right on my website at drshivani.com that people can take, and it'll give you an instant answer of your primary dosha. And then you can lead with that and start to balance that one first. And then we move into balancing that second one. So, for example, I'm a Pitta person. My brain is always on fire, ready to create. But in modern day times, many of us have a Vata imbalance because the world is moving so fast. Social media, the news, it can kind of cause this Vata mind imbalance to happen.
Yeah, like a
So
high
our job,
sympathetic dominance.
exactly. And so it's our job to then build these really grounding practices, quiet practices, meditation, deep breathing, everything Ayurveda teaches us just to stay calm, centered, and grounded. Because the goal of Ayurveda is mind, body, and spirit in alignment. And so the way we get there is balancing all the things I talked about.
Yeah, that's great. So creating balance. So if you are go, 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 doing things to help calm you down. And if you have trouble getting up and going, doing things that help kind of light the fire.
Exactly.
And you can use herbs, right? And obviously foods in order to do that. And I know you've done obviously a lot of research on turmeric and other herbs as well, particularly when it comes to inflammation and when it comes to balancing these doshas. So what should people know? And obviously you created your fusion formulas supplements as well. What should people know about herbs in general? And then also, what should people know about the supplement quality out there on the market?
Sure. So when it comes to the different super spices, I thought it was so fascinating that in our Indian spice cabinet, we have so many things we use on a daily basis. Whether it is turmeric, which is so powerful, ginger, fennel seeds, fenugreek, chili powder, black pepper, cinnamon. We have other spices no one's heard of in the West, like hing and different spices that are good for the gut. We love cumin seeds. And so just opening our mind into a lot of those spices that are used in a lot of the different ancient traditions, not just Indian. If you go to China, if you go to Latin America, if you go to Greece, a lot of these different countries are using different spice mixes. And so one easy way to start is just start cooking one new type of ethnic meal in your home per week. Maybe it's Mexican. I made Mexican food the other day and it wanted ground cumin as opposed to whole cumin. And in my cuisine, we only use whole cumin. So I had to buy ground cumin just to make that Mexican dish. And so just really opening the mind to the fact that super spices deliver the same benefits as superfoods is a pretty big deal. Because here in the West, we're like, okay, I've got my blueberries, I've got my spinach. People are eating salmon, goji berries, like whatever we can find that'll deliver this big result. And the result we're typically looking for is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, immune supportive. And when I did all the research on the super spices, I thought, wow, isn't this incredible? The super spices do all of that and they flavor our food. And honestly, I like them better than eating maca, matcha, goji berries, just trying to stuff all those things into a protein shake in my day. So that's really my fascination with super spices is if we can open our minds to that class of herbs and spices, I do believe Mother Earth has given them to us in a way that they really nourish and balance the system and we can customize that to our dosha. So as a pitta, I need the cooling spices. As a kapha, you might need those warming, igniting spices to get your system moving and energized and the fire going. As a vata, you might need the grounding ones that are going to support you. And so reaching into the spices is just a new layer of adding superfood power into our days. And then when I learned about turmeric, I just got obsessed. Turmeric is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It's antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-parasitic, helps with our gut microbiome. It supports us when we have leaky gut. It's very anti-aging. I spoke at A4M Vegas on how it impacts sirtuins, AMPK pathways, mitogenesis, which is our mitochondria really getting new mitochondria on board in the system, neurogenesis, forming new neurons. It's a very powerful support when we talk about dementia, Alzheimer's, and neurocognitive diseases that we're forming and struggling with. So to me, I just thought, gosh, that's the Swiss Army knife of the super herbs. So I'm going to use the super herbs. They're awesome, but I will definitely focus my energy on turmeric because, again, my family history really says if you don't follow a really focused path, you're not going to end up with a healthy body. And so that's where my obsession with turmeric came in. And as you know, in the supplement space, there's a huge range of quality that exists. So back when I was doing my PhD, an article came out that said over 75% of the supplements on the grocery store shelf do not have the active ingredients at the quality that they say. And I got really angry and I said, when I take vitamin D or a probiotic, I'm trusting that thing to do what I need it to do. When I travel, I need immune supports on board. What do you mean they don't have the active ingredient? That's not fair. That's wasting my time, my money, but also potentially me getting sick and not being able to work and live my life. And so that's where when I went to build a turmeric supplement, I actually didn't plan to do that. I just studied it and said, I'm going to talk about this forever. And my family around me looked at me and they said, if you're going to tell everyone to take turmeric all the time, you should just make your own. And when I went to build Fusionary, I thought, okay, what if we created a solution so potent that all of Western medicine will use it when they say, oh, you have chronic inflammation or you have chronic pain? That was my hypothesis. I was a researcher. And so I found a factory and I talked to them and I said, this is my dream. I want all of orthopedics to use this. So when I'm in pain, instead of saying, Shivani, take NSAIDs for 10 days in a row, and then I would get stomach aches from it, they would offer me the natural solution because I'm one of those people who needs the natural solution without the side effects. And so I built Fusionary completely backwards. You're not supposed to build supplement companies the way I did. I built it for potency, efficacy, and with transparency around how much third party testing we're doing. And the factory laughed at me and they said, "You are absolutely kidding. This is the wrongest way to do it." And I said, "No, let's set a new standard. Let's show what's possible. Ayurvedic botanicals can step up and become the most trusted vitamins and minerals and support people like me." And so I know you know a lot about quality, but it's an interesting conversation to remind everyone that we have to be careful where we buy our supplements.
A lot of warnings, especially a lot of people are getting stuff on Amazon.com, and there's a lot of rip-off brands and a lot of people, third-party sellers too, that are selling different products. But sometimes it will be kind of a rip-off label that's on it. I mean, there's been a lot of warnings out there. So you definitely want to go through a trusted company, something that's third party tested for purity and efficacy. I think that's always key as well. So really important. I'm glad that you guys are doing that with your products. I would expect it coming from you, but I'm glad that you are. So let's talk about, we were talking about kind of your super spice protocol, right? What herbs are in that super spice protocol for healing inflammation?
Sure. So turmeric's always my number one. I think turmeric on a daily basis, whenever we need that support, maybe we take certain years, certain phases of our lives. We know most of us are inflamed and dealing with some level of inflammation just because of the environment we're living in with water,
Mhm.
air, food quality being the way it is. And so turmeric's my number one. But after turmeric in Ayurveda, we talk a lot about these other beautiful anti-inflammatory herbs. One of them is Boswellia. Boswellia is known as the joint rescuer. So it really gets in there, and we have a lot of clinical trials, double blind placebo controlled trials around the benefits of Boswellia. And we know that it showed up to a 70% reduction in joint pain and stiffness. We know that it's caused significant drops in HSCRP. In studies, we showed that when they test how far you can walk, it improved walking distance by about 80 meters, which is a
Hmm.
big deal. I was just in India last year, and the clinical trials they're doing on botanicals like this one showed how much farther you can walk, which is a big deal. That's your quality of life, that you can move more and walk more without pain. Then we've seen that with Boswellia in as early as 5 days, people were having their pain scores drop, and they were having the reductions in their TNF alpha, interleukin 6, and CRP. So to me, it's really fascinating that Boswellia has a lot of these traits that we talk about in turmeric. Another beautiful one is ginger. We know ginger is so soothing to the system. It's soothing to our digestive tract. So in Ayurveda, we love a ginger tea in the morning or ginger lemon tea to kick off the day and get the digestive fire. We call that Agni. Get that digestive fire moving and grooving and ready for what you're going to consume during your day. And so we know in clinical trials around ginger, it's helped with knee osteoarthritis. We've seen it help with people's symptoms. And they were studying in up to 7 randomized trials how it affected inflammation and joint pain. And they saw significant results. And what I love about ginger is so many of us use it in tea form, which is great. And when we put it into supplement form, we've seen that impact on all the inflammatory pathways, COX-2 and things like that. And ginger is a sister plant to turmeric, so it has similar benefits. Then we have another super spice a lot of people haven't heard of called guduchi. It's Tinospora cordifolia. So it's just a word most of us have not heard here in the West, but it's known as the immune balancer. And so many of us have autoimmune struggles, maybe leaky gut, autoimmune arthritis that people are struggling with now, especially since pandemic. I'm seeing it increase significantly in my female population. And so guduchi is known as this immune balancing herb. We call it a rasayana, something that just gets in there and rejuvenates and heals. It supports the immune system that might be suppressed and that we're then seeing in kind of joint pain and things like that. It's an immune modulator. So less heard of, but still very supportive as a balancer to the system. And then another one that I love is called amla. Maybe people have heard of amla. It's known as this powerful natural vitamin C. It gives us more vitamin C in a natural form than any other ingredient that exists. And what I love about it is amla has created a 54% reduction in CRP, so very powerful anti-inflammatory benefits, but also gave a 50% rise in nitric oxide, which turmeric also increases nitric oxide, and a 53% increase in glutathione in up to 12 weeks. So it's a natural vitamin C. We know it supports collagen in the system as well, supports our joints. And then finally, my last favorite is called ashwagandha. People in the West pronounce it ashwagandha. Ashwagandha to me, right after turmeric, is a powerhouse. It supports neurocognitive, which as a woman in her 40s and beyond, I feel like neurocognitive support, reducing brain fog is
Mhm.
really important to us. We know that it's created up to a 20 to 30% reduction in cortisol. So because ashwagandha is an adaptogen, if you're stressed and anxious, it brings you down a couple notches. If you're feeling low and feeling the blues, it lifts you up. And so all the adaptogens from Ayurveda, including turmeric in a sense, will regulate within the body based on what you need. That's called plant intelligence. I think of it as plant magic because it's from Mother Earth and we're from Mother Earth. It combines within us and understands what to do in the system. And so what I did was I took a lot of these different herbs I'm talking about and built a formula called inflammation relief that matches what an ancient Ayurvedic doctor would have given us thousands of years ago. So when you combine boswellia, ginger, guduchi, amla, black pepper, turmeric, curcumin in the right proportion to match what Mother Nature and these doctors would have given us, you're kind of bringing this perfect synergy and orchestra together for inflammation. So that's what I've seen over the last decade is turmeric does a lot. I'm a mega turmeric fan, but a synergistic formula like inflammation relief just goes after inflammation exactly where it needs the help. And then it goes after the big problems, the medium problems, and the small problems. So it's been fascinating to me as a researcher because people will come to me and say, it helped with my hip pain, my back pain, my knee pain, the big reason I came to you. But then my allergies went away and my gingivitis went away. And then I went on a vacation and forgot my formulas. And then I realized what it did for me. My stiffness, my aches in the morning, everything that was slowing me down came back. Now I believe in it. And so to me, I just get the honor of working with super spices and then understanding how they work in people's bodies. But that's why I like to highlight that synergistic blends from Ayurveda are even more effective because you're bringing all those superfood, super spices together to do their job.
Yeah, for sure. And these herbs or roots, and in many cases, like with turmeric and with ginger, they are the reason why they have these powerful anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial compounds is that these plants are trying to defend themselves from different pathogens in nature, geographical stressors, so extreme heat, extreme cold, all these different environmental stressors. And so they've got to develop compounds that give them basically resilience. And so when we take them in, it's going to help confer those same compounds, give us a level of resilience. And resilience is really our ability to adapt to whatever stressors we're under. So if we're under mental, emotional stressors, a lot of these things will help to balance that. If we're under, if we're not moving right, if we're, if we've got inflammation, that's a stressor on the body. So all of those things, these compounds in nature are formulated in these plants to help them adapt and survive stress. And that's how, when we consume them, we take that on. And that's the beautiful thing about using nature, plant-based medicine.
True. Very true. Beautifully said.
Yep. Let's move to stress. Stress is obviously a big one. We're talking about adapting to stress, and obviously it's a hidden inflammation trigger. And most people think meditation is the only fix, but Ayurveda talks about a lot more deeper, more practical tools to calm stress and just reset the body and create more resilience. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So I think living in modern day times, we are under so much stress, and sometimes we don't even realize it. So there's the stressors of just not sleeping well. Many people don't sleep well, and I'm kind of shocked by it because I'm so obsessed with sleep, and I use every tool I need for phenomenal sleep. And if I don't get great sleep, the next day is just rough for me. So not even getting good sleep could be considered a big stressor. The foods we eat. If we eat foods that are hard to digest or are against our dosha or let's say we have leaky gut, just the process of eating can be so inflammatory and such a stressor on the system and cause autoimmune reactions within us. Then we talk about the environmental factors. I'm pretty obsessed with clean air, clean water, clean food sourcing, all these things, the toxic cleaning products and skincare products we use as humans, and the level of stress that's causing on a continual basis, and how sometimes we're adding on stressor after stressor, and there's only a certain bucket that the body can handle, and then we overflow. And that's when
Mhm.
we talk about our reactive system, chronic inflammation, we're having a flare up, we run to the doctor, and that's where we're getting diagnosed with autoimmune stack ups and things like this. So to me, it's all of those are one big problem. But then that last piece of our mental emotional is also really important. And we don't think about mental stress as causing physical inflammation, but they're very much connected. And in my book, The Inflammation Code, I brought up a new concept called mental inflammation. And I truly believe that the level of chronic stress we're holding in our minds, the fact that we're consuming the news 24/7, even through social media. I don't watch the news, but I watch social media, and I'll get horrible alerts. We have algorithms really built to cause us stress and fear so that we stay on those platforms. So we're really signed up for something right now that I think we underestimate the level of physical cost it has. And so when it comes to Ayurveda's toolkit, Ayurveda says, look, I gave you a system of daily self care rituals that you can put into your life, that you can practice, that's going to constantly detox the system. And I've added a few more in there because I find we need even more help nowadays. And so in Ayurveda, we teach when you wake up in the morning, touch the ground, touch your forehead, and set one intention for the day. That can be any prayer you have for yourself as part of your own practice, but really taking the first moment of your day to ground and tune in. Then we teach you to hydrate. Hydrate first thing because we want peristalsis. We want to ensure you're going to have the first bowel movement. If you're constipated, please DM Dr. Jockers or myself. The last thing we want is constipated humans on earth and a digestive system that's not flowing and moving. Like that's key to all health. And so hydration and moving the system is really important. Next up, we teach using a copper tongue scraper. Simple habit, takes 20 seconds. You buy that copper tongue scraper once for 10, $12 and you own it for life. But by gently scraping the tongue 7 to 14 times in the morning, we're clearing that tongue that represents all the organs of the body. So just like in reflexology, all the organs of the body are reflected on the bottom of your foot. In Ayurveda, we teach that they're reflected on the tongue. And so gently scraping the tongue is going to clear what we call ama or the sticky toxin residue that forms inside of us. It'll also ignite the digestive fire. So some people with constipation have won at constipation just with tongue scraping. I love that. Simple, free habits. It's also going to help clear the taste buds and support oral microbiome, which supports better gut microbiome. I'm all about whatever supports my gut health because that is my immune system. That is how we're going to support inflammation being cleared in our system. So
Yeah,
tongue
that tongue
scraping.
scraping actually activates the vagus nerve because the vagus nerve plays a role with the palate and swallowing. And so actually putting something back in the tongue, on the tongue, and activating that stimulates vagal tone, which is cranial nerve 10. And a lot of people have very poor vagal tone, which can result in things like constipation or poor digestive juice production, stomach acid, bile, pancreatic enzyme production for good overall digestion. Can also help with, obviously the vagus nerve plays a big role with calming your heart rate, right? Your breathing, your ability to adapt to stress. So simple practice there. Not only are you clearing out oral microbes and pathogens and endotoxins that are on your tongue, so you're reducing your microbial load, but you're also activating that vagal tone.
Absolutely. And I think there's so much new science and new knowledge coming around of what we can do for vagal tone. And Ayurveda said meditate, pranayam, humming, just saying om or any beautiful word like it can create that vagal tone. And so when I was talking about mental inflammation, we need to have these tools on board in our daily practice. You can do some while you're driving. Sometimes I do pranayama while driving because I'm a mom and I'm on the road half the day, and that's okay. That's where I fit it in. Or the humming that we can do for vagal tone. And so all of these practices add up. One that I added to the Ayurveda stack was something called tea time is me time. And so I have a cup of tea 4 or 5 times a day just so that I will pause and tune in and ask myself some key questions like, how are you doing today? What do we need to do to make today better? Are you going to eat well today and support yourself? Are you taking your supplements? And so just pausing and taking the time to tune in can be a mindful moment and an anchor and allow yourself to tune into your intuition and really ask your intuition questions and allow it to answer for you and say, oh, actually, Shivani, cancel that. Don't do that. So my intuition gives me a lot of powerful answers and I listen because that's our own inner intelligence. And so building these habits and rhythms throughout the day and building a strong circadian rhythm into our day is one of the key ways that Ayurveda says we can support our body to stay balanced and thus reduce that inflammation and stay in line, stay resilient to all these stressors that life's going to throw at us. So by having the rhythm, it's like creating a defense shield around you and saying, yeah, life's going to throw a lot of stressors my way. I get that. But I have my practices and I've built resilience into the system so I can handle all of that.
Yeah, optimizing your circadian rhythm is a key way to build resilience. That's so important. It helps you really emphasize recovery at night, right? So when your circadian rhythm is right, you're going to secrete more melatonin, which not only is a sleep hormone, but also it is your major mitochondrial antioxidant that helps clean up oxidative stress in and around your mitochondria. It helps stimulate mitophagy, so the breakdown of old damaged mitochondria and the regeneration of those mitochondria. And then also, when we pair that with human growth hormone, so if we're going to bed at the right time, we're optimizing melatonin, we're getting a nice rise of growth hormone. Growth hormone really sends this powerful message to preserve lean body tissue as well as burn fat and basically balance and stabilize the immune system. And so good circadian rhythm allows you to optimize recovery at night, but then also have lots of energy, be able to burn fat for fuel throughout the day and have lots of great energy and mental clarity throughout the day. So it's really key. And you were talking about the warm beverages. Warm beverages are another thing that help activate that vagal tone, that parasympathetic activity, which we need a reminder of, right? Throughout the day, we need to have a kind of a balance or a gas and brake with our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic, where we're trying to get stuff done. We're sympathetic, but we need to kind of balance that out and take those moments to just relax, like you were talking about, tap into your intuition, take some deep breaths, calm your heart rate, and warm beverages actually is a really good tool for helping do that. But then you take it to the next level where you're also integrating it with an intentional time to slow down.
Absolutely. And the super herbs. So it's like a stack, a
So
health stack. Yeah,
that's the key. You got to stack all of these different biohacks.
for sure. For sure.
Yep.
There's not enough time in the day sometimes to get everything done. And so I really try to simplify it down to, okay, tongue scraper, tea time is me time, take your turmeric. Like those are my basics. I don't negotiate on those. And then I try to stack more on top. So if I get phone calls, I go outside and walk in nature. I just walk
Yeah.
around the pool or I walk down the street to take those phone calls. I'm really trying to teach everyone that the rhythm that we build through these different self-care habits can completely help us win when it comes to what you're talking about, the sympathetic parasympathetic balance. A lot of times my day is in fifth gear at full throttle. And so to put tea time is me time in there as those breaks where my system gets to decompress for a minute and reset, so we're going to absorb and digest our food. So if we're not going to sit and eat and do these Ayurveda practices, we're really going to have these struggles with our health that so many of us are dealing with. And so just living a natural, healthy, preventive lifestyle can shift all of that. And these are just a handful of the tools that get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've given us a lot of tools. Now, what mistakes are you seeing people make, particularly when they're using turmeric or any other healing herbs that reduce their potential to reduce inflammation?
Sure. So when it comes to turmeric, what most people don't realize is out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3%, 3 to 5% is the curcuminoids. And that's the most studied piece of the turmeric that we have right now. And we know that those curcuminoids significantly reduce inflammation. Out of the curcuminoids, we believe curcumin does it the best. And so when I finished my PhD, I thought, okay, well, everyone comes up to me and says they take juice shots and they're using turmeric in their food. That's great. I'm Indian. It is in my food. But that didn't save my family. That doesn't help me in modern day times with the level of inflammation that I have on board. So when we take curcumin as the extract in the right proportion of those curcuminoids, that's when we can drive a big result. But like we talked about in supplements, there's a huge grade of what supplements are made of nowadays. I have seen supplements where they just use turmeric powder. And I'm like, I could have bought turmeric powder for $3 at the grocery store. I didn't need you to put that into a capsule for me. So that's not going to move the needle when we talk about significant reduction of inflammation. Juice shots are great. Some people actually do feel benefits from those juice shots. Why? Because we need all the anti-inflammatory support we can get. But again, I don't think a juice shot is enough when we talk about, okay, I need a therapeutic grade on board for significant reduction. And so taking supplements, taking herbs, taking these botanicals at the highest potency to drive a significant result with the correct ingredients to help them absorb is very important. So we know that when it comes to turmeric, you need black pepper or a healthy fat for it to absorb. So I'm team black pepper. I built my formulas with black pepper in them. And I tell people eat them with a meal, or you can eat them with healthy fat, or you can eat them alone. It's fine too. But if we do want it to cross the blood-brain barrier and support that neurocognitive piece, eating it with a healthy fat is even better for us, and it's going to create that absorption. But I find that most people are buying really inexpensive supplements on Amazon or the grocery store, and they're like, yeah, I buy turmeric, but it's never done anything for me. I just don't think it does anything. And I'm sitting here like, it does everything. You should come into my brain and see what it does. It's incredible. I have seen it change tens of thousands of lives. It's changed mine. I now have an immune system of steel. And I really, really appreciate that turmeric gives that to me. And I use it all the time for that. If I fly, I'm taking turmeric. Someone sneezes, I'm taking turmeric. For me, it's the biggest defense shield. And then I also use it as an anti-inflammatory if I hurt something or I'm worried about inflammation, which I am. So that's where I want people to understand quality, potency, third-party testing in this day and age where every food is being recalled right now for some reason. So in my case, we third-party test pre, mid, and post-production to ensure that when I'm putting this in a doctor's hands or a person's hands, it's safe. And so I think it's just important nowadays that we really go and find who owns these companies, who is making it, do they care about us, and are they creating something that's truly going to move the needle for our health?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've given us a lot here today. Where can people find out more about fusionary formulas? More about, obviously, you have your Doshas test. What are the best sites for people to go to?
For sure. So my website is shivanigupta.com. It's my name, ShivanIGupta. And on there, I have my dosha quiz, a free 7-day inflammation challenge that everyone can do to kick off a lot of these healthy habits, because I know I talked about a lot. And then it'll talk about my book, The Inflammation Code, as well. And I'm on Instagram as at Dr.Shivani And the turmeric gold inflammation relief is at fusionaryformulas.com. So FUSIONARY formulas.com. And I'm available on all social platforms. You can DM me and I will respond.
Love that. Well, I always enjoy our conversations. You're a wealth of knowledge and you're helping so many people out, Dr. Shivani. So thanks so much for your time, guys. Again, check her out, ShivaniGupta.com, and check out her fusionary formulas. And we'll see y'all in a future interview. Be blessed, everybody.